Andrew Tate. Ihr solltet alle Andrew Tate kennen. Ich glaube, der ist nicht vor kurzem, aber vor einer Zeit zum Islam konvertiert. Und wir reagieren jetzt einfach mal auf die Gründe, warum er zum Islam konvertiert ist und warum er nicht mehr zum Christentum angehört hat, obwohl er meiner Meinung nach nie zum Christentum angehört hat, weil er nicht die Religion versteht. Oder weil er nicht das Prinzip von Glaube und Religion versteht. Aber wir schauen uns jetzt einfach mal den Clip an. Dort ist er mit Candace Owens. Die mag ich auch. Also Candace Owens ist cool, ich mag die.
And then exactly what you just said about there's something divine about marriage, and exactly like you said, there's such a thing as sin. Everything you're talking about is religious. You're completely correct. You eventually, if you're going to wake up and be the kind of person who has hard parameters and said, this is right, this is wrong, it's very difficult to do that without then turning and understanding that has to come from God. Who else is going to decide what is right and what is wrong? Mm-hmm. And people say, oh, they're all man-made religions. Well, then why does it go against so many of the wills of man? Some of the sins that man want to go and do, the religions are against. If we made a religion wouldn't be against our own sins, would it?
Right.
So it's interesting that this is almost proof for God in so many ways when you're going to wake up and realize that there is genuine evil in the world and there's genuine good in the world, and there are two sides and two camps. And I do believe that the good is on the side of truth, and I do believe that comes from God. And there's many different ways to God. I think there is one God and there's different religions, and
es gibt nicht mehrere Wege zu Gott. Es gibt nicht mehrere Wege zu Gott. Ich weiß jetzt nicht, wie der islamische Punkt ist, ob es mehrere Wege zu Gott geben könnte. Soweit ich weiß, kannst du nur als Moslem in den Himmel kommen. Und wenn du kein Moslem bist, dann kommst du nicht in den Himmel, aber korrigiert mich. Aber in der Bibel steht ganz klar, also du kommst nur durch Jesus Christus in den Himmel. Durch niemand anderen, außer durch Jesus. Weil auch die ganzen Religionen, die widersprechen sich. Das heißt, es gibt nicht mehrere Wege führen in den Himmel. Das ergibt keinen Sinn, weil jede einzelne Religion widerspricht sich. Und wenn sich Sachen widersprechen, dann kann nicht beides stimmen. Wenn es widerspricht, dann kann nicht beides stimmen. So.
When I first got into politics, I wasn't so staunchly against homosexual marriage. I didn't speak out on certain things, abortion. And then I saw it firsthand. I just examined just the differences in my relationships with heterosexual couples and homosexual couples. And homosexual couples, I'm talking about two men. You don't realize that God designed a man to be with a woman because it prevents men from giving entirely into the worst components of who men are. Just having sex all the time.
Yeah,
right? You can't do that. If you're with a woman, okay, maybe it's menstruation, maybe it's pregnancy, maybe it's afterbirth, but there are these natural barriers that make it so that your relationship has to be about something else other than just sex. When I'm with my homosexual friends, they talk about sex. I don't think they realize that heterosexual couples don't just sit down for lunch and be like, we banged 20 times last night because we could. They think that that's normal. So then you talk about how that bleeds into pornography, that bleeds into wanting to talk about sexuality in the classroom, how that might bleed in to suddenly wanting to speak to children about sex and oh, this is all normal. It's actually not normal, but because it's normal in a homosexual relationship, you think that it's actually normal.
Totally right.
And so I have suddenly realized, and this is why I become so staunchly conservative, how it all bleeds into everything. And there is such a thing as objective rightness, and there is such a thing as objective wrongness.
Completely correct. And I agree with absolutely everything you just said. So my question would be then, what do we do? Do we force everybody to be Christians or force everybody to be religious, or how do we do it?
Well, I think the first thing is having the courage to talk about it. And nobody even talks about these topics anymore because they just go, oh, they've won. So we need.
Du kannst niemanden dazu zwingen, dass er eine Religion annimmt. Weil eigentlich der Hauptessenz einer Religion, eines Glaubens sollte sein, dass du Gott liebst. Und du kannst niemanden dazu zwingen, jemanden zu lieben. Liebe kommt freiwillig. Liebe kommt aus reinem Herzen. Liebe kommt mit einer Entscheidung. Und wenn du keine Entscheidung hast, dann kann es nie wahre Liebe geben. Das heißt, du musst Menschen immer eine Entscheidung geben. Natürlich kannst du sie recht leiten. Natürlich kannst du ihnen sagen, was falsch ist und was nicht. Aber wenn sie es nicht annehmen wollen, dann lässt du sie in Ruhe. Aber du kannst ihnen klar machen, okay, so objektiv gesehen, das, was du gerade machst, ist falsch. Oder objektiv gesehen, das ist nicht das Richtige, was du tust. Aber sie haben immer noch die Entscheidung, das zu machen.
Need to let this go, and more you're seeing culturally people are afraid of being canceled. I mean, what I just said to you is grounds for a cancellation. How dare you question this? How dare you? I even believe now, after seeing the ways in which society has made children believe that they're all trans. I went to university. I went to high school. I didn't graduate with a single trans person. Now you want me to believe 1 in 4 children suffers from identity issues? No, that's socialization.
Completely.
You place that on them. So is it such a far far-fetched to imagine that the same happened in the when homosexuality came to America, and then we popularized it and we put Ellen on TV and we gave Melissa Etheridge a platform, and suddenly pride parades were happening everywhere. Whereas you don't see this here. You don't see this here in Romania, where we're sitting, because we haven't. This is the power of culture. This is the power of pop culture. When you make something, you have to go the other way. You need to normalize it. You need to say, actually, this is abnormal.
Absolutely.
And this is what normal is. And it's not both. So yeah, I've become very conservative in all of these perspectives.
You're completely correct. You nailed it. When I said, do we force everyone to be Christian? You nailed it by changing to the exact thing I was going to say. It's about culture. It's a cultural issue. And it's completely and utterly correct. And I think that's actually one of the reasons why. I mean, I don't state this with arrogance. I don't want people to understand. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm trying to make people understand the situation I'm in. I was the most Googled man on the planet at one point. So I had a massive impact on the culture, and it was dragging in the complete opposite direction that the culture wants to move in. I'm dragging men in the complete opposite direction that the Satanists and the people who want to turn us all into slaves want us to go in. So I think that anybody who sits at home and realizes that my legal troubles appearing basically directly after that is a coincidence, then you're awfully naive. So it's unfortunate also that the way the world works, at a certain level of influence and power, the justice system almost breaks down. We see that even in America and most other countries. It all just becomes a big game and a big show, and it's about power plays and a whole bunch of conversations behind the scenes. It's not about justice anymore. So it's very concerning, because you are right. We are in a culture war. And it's culture which is absolutely not really defining the direction in which we move. And this is one of the reasons why I reverted to Islam, because I feel like the Islamic culture is the strongest. You feel the culture.
I was wondering, because you were Christian, and
Du fühlst den christlichen Glauben auch, wenn Leute Christen wären. Wenn Leute wirkliche Christen wären, was sind wirkliche Christen? Das ist wirklich die Frage, die man sich stellen sollte. Was sind Christen? Christen sind Folger von Jesus Christus. Und Folger von Jesus Christus, dort fühlst du auch die Kultur. Dort fühlst du auch die Liebe. Dort fühlst du auch Gott. Nur was zum Beispiel ein Andrew Tate machen will, ist sozusagen, ja, ganz Amerika ist ja eigentlich ein christliches Land. Amerika ist kein christliches Land. Das ist absolut kein christliches Land.
Definitely do not know enough about the Islamic faith to sit here and debate you on it. I'm never a person that will debate somebody on something that I'm not an expertise on.
Yeah.
But I will say that I'm sad that you're not a Christian anymore, because I can sense, perhaps it's because you felt that Christians weren't doing a good job defending their beliefs.
Yeah, I think that God should be feared. I believe that God should be feared. I fear God. It's one of the only things I fear. And I believe that also you see God to a degree, or you see religion, how you see yourself. And I see myself as a person of strong principles and strong morals. And I like to think of myself as the kind of person nobody really wants to cross, not because I'm a psycho, but because I'm a man of capability, and I'm smart and I'm strong, and nobody wants to make an enemy of me. So I feel like I find an affinity to a belief system which has very similar outlooks. Und
genau das ist das Ding. Genau das ist das Ding. Die gehen nicht in eine Religion, um zu sagen, ja, okay, ich mag die Wege, wie ich in den Himmel komme, oder ich habe die Theologie dahinter studiert und ich habe wirklich Gott in einem Gebet gespürt oder was weiß ich. Nein, die gehen in eine Religion, weil es einfach mit ihrer Weltansicht passt. Es passt einfach in ihre Weltansicht.
A whole bunch of other things I can say from the Quran and Islamic texts, etc. But to keep it very vague and very broad for people who are not Islamic, I felt God when I was in an Islamic country. If I went to an Islamic country,
that's the problem.
I felt God. You don't feel any God. How is it a Christian country if Satanists are mocking Jesus on the streets?
USA ist kein christliches Land.
I understand what you're saying, and I was trying to gather in my head what pulled him away from Christianity. And I said it's probably the example. If you're thinking that America is a Christian country, and you're thinking that the United Kingdom is a Christian country,
they're not.
Going, Christianity is getting it wrong.
Yeah.
And the truth is that America is no longer a Christian country. We're being run by people that are satanic. Hollywood is satanic, and Hollywood is running America.
Right.
So you're not wrong. But right now, America is facing a spiritual battle. And for the first time in a very long time, Christians are starting to stand up and speak about our principles.
I hope so.
And I could have used you.
Aber, was ich nicht verstehe, so, verstehen Tristan und Andrew Tate eigentlich so ihre Religionen? Verstehen die das eigentlich, was die da lesen? Und die glauben immer noch, dass sie zusammen in den Himmel kommen. Und das check ich nicht. Glauben die immer noch, dass sie zusammen in den Himmel kommen? Oder natürlich können Christen und Muslime zusammenleben, natürlich. Aber wenn du wirklich die beiden Religionen studierst und nein, du musst nicht mal studieren, du musst einfach nur lesen. Du musst die Bibel und Koran einfach nur lesen und dann merkst du, dass Christen kommen nicht in den Himmel laut Koran und Muslime kommen nicht in den Himmel laut der Bibel. Ich weiß nicht, ob die wirklich verstehen, was sie da glauben, weil ich hab nichts irgendwie von denen, alles was ich von denen sehe, von den Religionen, sind irgendwie so Weisheiten, keine Ahnung. Tristan Tate sagt so, hier Matthäus, ist nicht Matthäus 10, mit dem Mann, der sein Haus auf dem Sand baut und mit dem Mann, der sein Haus auf dem Felsen baut. Da habe ich irgendwie so einen Bibelvers von ihm gesehen. Aber irgendwie, was Errettung angeht, was Erlösung angeht, was der Weg, der Wandel im Heiligen Geist angeht, habe ich nie was gesehen. Ich glaube, die nehmen sich einfach ihre Religion als so Self-Development-Buch. Irgendwie so ein Weisheitsbuch oder so. Wie, keine Ahnung, hier Sun Tzu, Kunst des Krieges. So sehen die ihre Religion, Digga. So Weisheiten und so.
I know, but I have seen in California, I've seen Christians and Muslims get side by side when they were complaining about the LGBT
I did see
in
that
schools, which
recently.
is fantastic. And I know what you're saying, and that is true, but it's almost like when I go to an Islamic country, I feel God around. You see it. You see it in the way the people are dressed. You see it in the fact that everyone's in a family. You see it in the fact that there's a mosque on every corner. It's in the air. And it's almost like when I'm in Dubai and I'm talking to my friends, my Islamic friends, and I explain to them the things you have to protect your child from in an American school. They literally think I'm lying. They're like, no, surely. Like, it's mind-bending to
what
them.
about African countries that are Christian?
Okay, so yeah, this is interesting. So
yeah, they still are mind blown by the concept of what we're fighting in America. So America is unique. We shouldn't say that this is the blanket.
You're right. There are Christian countries which still take Christianity.
And they're like, what do you mean men can be women? Like, they think you're crazy.
And we're in Romania. And Romania is a country which is very conservative and very Christian. And they don't buy into any of this garbage either.
None of it.
So this is absolutely not true. It's unfair to say all Christian countries are like
America is an exception and not in a good way.
Aber so, das ist auch wieder, sein Argument ist jetzt weg. So, er ist zum Islam konvertiert, weil er in christlichen Ländern kein Gott spürt. Aber dann lebt er gerade in Rumänien und dort ist ein christliches Land und dort fühlt man die Religion. Also ich verstehe es nicht.
Yeah, I think like the whole West is, unfortunately.
The West is. I've said on my show the entire time. The West is falling. The fact that we're even having these debates is not good.
Yeah, the West is fallen, and unfortunately,
Russia.
Ja.
Und auch zum Beispiel so dieses Argument, der Islam funktioniert besser in einem Land, wenn du jetzt dieses Beispiel so USA im Gegensatz zu was weiß ich, Dubai nimmst, obwohl Dubai nicht mal ein Land ist, Dubai ist eine Stadt. Aber du musst dir auch mal so vorstellen, erstens der Westen, es sind keine christlichen Länder mehr. Deutschland ist kein christliches Land, USA, England sind keine christlichen Länder mehr, auch wenn sie sich so nennen. Aber die waren es vor irgendwie 30, 40 Jahren. Und dann musst du dir mal vorstellen, welches Land funktioniert heute immer noch besser? Der Westen, USA, Deutschland, England oder solche Länder wie Saudi-Arabien oder Iran, was islamische Länder sind. Funktionieren die besser? Natürlich, wenn du solche Städte wie Dubai oder so anschaust, natürlich funktioniert Dubai besser oder solche Städte in Katar oder so besser als in Deutschland. Die sind so viel moderner und so. Aber wenn du außerhalb von den Städten gehst, dann ist gar nichts mehr. Dann ist gar nichts mehr. Dann hast du Armut, dann hast du Verfolgung, dann hast du irgendwie, keine Ahnung, Versklavung gefühlt. Du hast Leute, die genau aus diesen Ländern flüchten, weil sie verfolgt werden. Also welche Länder funktionieren wirklich besser im Großen und Ganzen? Auch heutzutage, auch wenn jetzt in Deutschland, keine Ahnung, Pride Parade oder so ist, funktioniert Deutschland als Land immer noch besser als ein Land wie Saudi-Arabien oder Iran.
Christian country.
Yeah, absolutely, a very Christian country. So yeah, you are right, but I felt an affinity to Islam. I felt God in the air, and it's difficult for me to explain any other way.
Okay, that's fair enough. I won't push you any further on that.
Ja, man muss respektieren. Mein Respekt geht aus zu allen Muslimen. Aber ja, ich verstehe einfach nicht diese Situation mit Religion von diesen beiden Brüdern dort. Ja, I don't know.